Bill Maher is by no means a Trump fan, but he is willing to sit down with people of the opposite political spectrum and have a productive discussion. However, what we're going to see today is something a little bit surprising. It's Bill Maher kind of calling out Brian Tyler Cohen, progressive YouTuber, on his own TDS. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we get to the algorithms. Here we go.
You're just going to have to accept that and make the best of it, as opposed to just writing the millionth editorial about, I'm just so not interested in this. I hate Trump more than you do contest. It's not productive. It's not helping. It's not getting anywhere. It's not doing anything for the country. I'm for actually making this country work better. And that does not include just ignoring. But I think he just likes a wide array. It's a lot of not what I read. It's a lot of what I heard and people are saying. Yeah. And he just, he's an idea guy. Like, let's take Greenland. Let's reopen Alcatraz. Let's open Alcatraz on Greenland. Talk about ideas.
I mean, maybe, okay, so maybe it's not maybe these things are not deliberate, but I think it still lends itself to this idea.
It does. It's not that Steve Bannon made him into a guy who floods the wrong shit.
He knows how to
Steve
exploit.
Bannon found a guy who naturally floods the zone. That's how it happened.
And so I think the onus, I mean, look, for folks like me who are on the left, the onus then becomes, how can we most effectively filter through that stuff and keep our eye on the main things? And that becomes difficult at times when there's 10 different things going on at once.
Be honest. Don't just be partisan. Just don't be, I mean, you do what you want. You're very successful. It's not my way exactly. I mean, I will always call it as I see it, no matter what it is, and I don't care who likes it or doesn't. That's my bond with the audience. It's worked for me pretty well. But it is, in a way harder to do. But just to take an example, tariffs. Now, I remember along with probably most people, were saying at the beginning, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump. Because that's boring and doesn't get us anywhere and leads you to dishonesty. Because the truth is, I don't know what his strategy is. But look, the stock market is at record highs. I know not everybody lives by the stock market, but I also drive around. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't. So, how do we deal with that fact? Because that's the fact.
I'm curious about that, about the dinner. Do you regret any part of it? Do you regret doing it? Do you regret the
why would
before or after? I'm just curious, like, the way that all of it played out. How do you think about it? Do you think about it
as... The people who hated me from before the dinner, the 10% or live on blue sky, just found another thing to hate me for. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to change the world. I'm saying, like, your shot doing nothing, not engaging, has zero chance.
Yeah.
Mine, this guy, I'm telling you, I know this cat a lot better than I did before. He's a people person. He talks to people. You have to keep the lines open. The stupidest thing the left does, and this dinner is a perfect example of it, is having this attitude toward the right that we won't even break bread with you. Yeah. We are so far above you that we won't even sit down at the same table with you.
Look,
that is their attitude, and that makes me sick too. I'm glad I break bread, and by that what makes them hate the left so much. They think that they're deplorables. We're deplorables, and you won't even sit down to dinner with us. Well, good luck. See how far that gets you.
Well, I mean, right now, look, we're in a position where Democrats lost the popular vote. They lost the electoral vote, and so we no longer have the luxury of excommunicating people from the party who are problematic. And so that, I think that's...
Or not talking to the other party.
Well, the
who
hard
has
part
all
is
the power.
Anybody who has any semblance of an ego, myself included, wants to see, like, you see Trump engage in all this bullshit, the Epstein thing, for example, whatever it may be, the pro-peace, and then he bombs Iran, says going to release the Epstein files, doesn't do it. And you have folks on the left who say, who want to be like, you fucking idiot, I told you so. Like, how did you not see this was going to come, that this was going to happen? But I think the way that I have to check myself often now, because the goal is persuasion, right? Like if you work in politics, the only way you win, the only way you exercise power is if you actually get in office so that you can enact your agenda. That's it. Otherwise, you're just chirping at people on Twitter.
So first, let me say that I hope people on the left and the Democrats do not take Bill Maher's advice. I hope they continue to be very dismissive and divisive and, of course, hateful towards people on the right, Because it hasn't worked for them in the past. Donald Trump just got reelected despite all of the best efforts to castigate him as the worst person ever. And as Bill Maher says, all of those I hate Trump editorials are not very effective. Okay, because when you're out there just, barking at the wind, what good is that actually doing you, especially since you lost all levers of power and, of course, your party is the least popular it's ever been. And then Bill Maher tells Brian Tyler Cohen, hey, your side has to be honest and not just partisan, because all of these fake attacks on Donald Trump and what he's actually doing can be easily debunked. That's kind of what I do here on this channel. And that brings up the idea of the tariffs, Bill Maher says, hey, I was completely wrong, and I have to admit it, about the tariffs. He thought that at this point in the presidency, the whole country would be in a depression because the tariffs are obviously a bad idea. And I've talked about this in the past, all the way back in 2018, when Donald Trump did the first round of tariffs. I was like, I don't know if that's going to work because obviously there's going to be a tax on the working people of America because they're going to be paying those higher prices. But guess what? Nothing changed. The costs were not passed on to the American consumer. And they were so good, in fact, that even Joe Biden kept the tariffs in place. Okay, so now fast forward to 2024, and hey, guess what? All the tariffs are actually a pretty good idea because once again, we're not really seeing a rise in prices. As a matter of fact, we're actually seeing the rate of inflation decrease. Okay, now it could be a heck of a lot better, and I hope Donald Trump continues to work on it. But once all of these tariffs are out of the way, imagine how good the economy is going to be running. But the biggest point during this entire discussion, I think, was when Bill Maher says the dumbest thing the left ever did was to cut off communication with the right. And by the way, it wasn't just trying to cut off communication, it was trying to cancel the right. If you recall, people on the left were trying to get people fired from their jobs simply for contributing to Donald Trump's campaign run back in 2016. You had CEOs that were forced to resign from their jobs because they didn't have the same political ideology as these rabid leftists. Okay, so don't forget, they tried to cancel us. They tried to ruin our livelihoods, all because they disagreed with us politically. That was the current state of the left. And now they're trying to rebrand themselves as something completely different. And that's what Brian Tyler Cohen is saying, It's all about the discussion. It's all about how you actually interact with people. So before he would have said, you morons, why would you think this would happen? But now he's got to try to convince people that, oh, all of these things we actually didn't do in the past, we totally swear we're going to do them this time around, even though we had all the levers of power back in 2020, Even though they had total control of the government for 2 full years and didn't accomplish any of that, we swear we're going to do that the next time. And of course, that's another reason why Donald Trump won, because people remembered his first term in 2016. Yes, it was chaotic, but what people liked the most about it, of course, was the economy, the rising wages, the low inflation. And we're hoping we can get back to all of that. And it seems like we are on that path. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.